Greetings, everyone. Often we have the desire for a tripod, but maybe not the finances. You may be on a really limited budget, and even the $25 for a basic tripod is just too much. So I want to talk about that issue, as well as maybe you've forgotten your tripod and you're out on location and you need to get the shot still. So first off, I'm on a tripod, or a makeshift tripod as it were, so that's one of the first things we can do. I'll set my camera on the chair and I'll frame up my shot. Now it helps in this situation to have an articulating screen. So I can open it up, turn my camera on, put it in live view, and then I can compose my shot. Because this cushion is curved, I can also angle it down a little bit and tilt it back and angle it up a little bit. You can also put small wedges underneath it to do the angling up or down. So this is the first thing that we can use as a tripod. Now, the only problem with this is it's not very high. Once I've got my shot set, I'm going to put my drive to the 10-second self-timer, make sure my exposure is set, and then just click it and take my arm off the chair. All the vibration settles down, and you'll get a perfectly sharp photo as if you were on a tripod. And there it goes. Now let's take it up a notch, something maybe that will get us up a little bit higher. Now this requires that you have a ladder, or maybe a family member who has a ladder. Or if wherever you're visiting there's a ladder available. Now in this particular case I'm very fortunate because there's actually some holes pre-built into this tray as well as up on the top. The second piece of information you need to know is that this right here is your friend. See, what this is a 1/4-20 bolt. And it actually has these nice little thumb grip on the end of it as opposed to a regular bolt. And the base of all cameras that are sold in the US have a 1/4-20. It's just a common thread. And we can screw it in here to help it to attach to things. So we can create all sorts of tripods for under a $1 investment by getting a couple washers, a couple different length 1/4-20 bolts, and learn to attach them to different things. So we've already looked at the chair. We're not going to put a bolt through our chair, but there's already a hole in this. Now, since it's a ladder, honestly, I wouldn't mind drilling a hole in there to fit this into, but I'm just fortunate it's already pre-done for me. So I'm going to grab a couple washers I have here over on the table. And I like these big round washers here. And now I'm going to go attach it. So I'm going to put 2 washers up on the top, 1 on the bottom, put it up through the hole, and I'll just screw this baby in. That's on there rock solid now. This is just really nice. Again, I can use my self-timer, and if it's not perfectly level, I can just put some wedges under the feet to level it left to right. And then this goes up and down, but it doesn't stay there. So I'll just grab something. This is just a little plug adapter, and I'll just wedge it in here, and now we're angling up a little bit. If I want something more, I'll take this clamp here, now Now I can really angle it up. So you just have to work with what you've got. Think creatively and come up with common sense solutions on how to make this happen. One of the warnings I want to make to you, however, is don't take chances. Whatever I'm showing you today, we want to make sure that the camera is not going to fall off and damage your camera. So keep that in mind and use a little bit of caution. The good news is, even if this clamp had come off, it may have flipped up a little bit, but that camera's on there solid and it's not going to fall off that particular ladder. One more thing on the ladder. I could drill a hole right through the side here so I could do a vertical mount as well. I'm not going to do that today, but that would be a possibility to enable you to go both horizontally and vertically. Let's move on to my next idea. My next stabilization method that I'd like to share with you really only works down to a quarter or maybe half a second. You can't do multiple second exposures. However, it's worth sharing because it's so small, lightweight, and inexpensive, just like all of these techniques. Again, a quarter 20 bolt. In this case, I've used an eye bolt just because it's easy to tie the string onto. However, any quarter 20 bolt will work. And then I put a little L bracket here, but it could be a washer, it could be a stick, it could be a lot of things that dangles off the end. You want a little bit of weight and something to step onto at the bottom of it. And we're going to use counter pressure pulling up onto the string to enable us to slow our shutter speed down. Now normally I can get away with hand holding at a 1/30th of a second depending on the focal length, maybe a little more, a little less. However, with this technique, I've commonly gotten to a quarter of a second pretty consistently, and on occasion a half a second. I've never pulled off 1 full second with any consistency. On rare occasion, but no consistency. So think about it in those exposures that are like a quarter second, you don't have a tripod available, and you've got one of these. I carry it in my camera bag when I'm traveling all the time. So let's give it a try. So I've got my camera here, and now I'm going to attach the quarter 20 eye bolt to the bottom. So I'll just screw it in. Great. Now I'm just going to let this drop. Now I've made the string a little bit long, and it's intentional. And the concept is this, that I put 1 foot on this side with the little weight and the other foot here so I can play with the height that I want by stretching my legs or bringing them together. And I want it pretty high, so I'm going to bring them together and then I'm going to pull up nice and tight and then I'm going to shoot. Notice I was on my high-speed motor drive. Now it didn't go super fast because I'm at a quarter of a second. But I like to run off a series of 3 or 4 frames because the odds are 1 or 2 of them won't be perfectly sharp. So again, multiple frames, pull up tight, exhale, and I'm sure we'll have a good one out of that sequence. We're going to zoom in here just a second to see what I'm going to be doing, but I have this idea. I've never tried it before, and I think it's brilliant, but we'll see. It could be a bust. My concept is to take an old book. This happens to be an old encyclopedia. Who uses these anymore, right? We're doing everything online. And I'm going to take and put a hole into it and then use the fact that it's hinged to change our angle. Now, of course, we'll need to set this book somewhere, like on this table, and then angle it to get our shot. This book could also sit on top of my car. It could sit a whole variety of places, on top of a planter, whatever you can find. It could sit on the ground. So let's see how to put this together, and we'll learn together the best way to do this. Okay, we're ready to begin. I have a couple of simple tools here. I have a screwdriver, Then I have actually a carpet cutting knife. Any type of utility knife or blade will work for this purpose. And then I have this screw, which I'm just using to create my starter hole inside of my book. So I'm gonna open it up and I'm gonna look for approximately the center of the book. Then I'm gonna take my screwdriver and I'm just gonna try and screw through the cardboard, or bookbinder's board technically, that created this book cover. Okay, we've got a slightly larger screw here, which is about the same diameter of the 1/4-20 bolt. We'll back it out. Now let's try that 1/4-20 bolt again. That's starting to go. And there we go. Now let's take a look at it on the other side. And I'm going to need to peel away some of this frayed material here to make it perfect. So I'm going to pull it out. Now you may ask, why didn't I just go ahead and use a drill and do this? Well, I have a drill, and I could have, but I'm assuming if you don't have the money to buy a tripod, you may not own a drill. So I'm trying to do this with very, very low-tech tools. And this doesn't have to be beautiful. Nice. Okay, we'll peel away just a little bit more. Now we'll put the camera onto it. So I'm going to back it up just a little. Line up with the hole. Tighten it up. And look at that. So now, as you can see, we're tilting down just a little bit, which if we flip it, means we can also look up a little bit. But what if we want it level? So there's two ways to approach this. One is I could just put a wedge under here, but I like the idea of starting level. So I'm going to take a look at where this is hitting, which I'll just kind of push down on it so it makes a nice little mark there. I'm going to unscrew it temporarily. So my camera's not in the way. And now, I'm just going to make sure I have that lined up perfectly. And I'm going to cut out some pages. Not the entire page, just a hole. All right, now that I've made a complete mess, it should be ready for use. Let's reattach our camera. And there we go. So now the camera can sit level, but then it can also be angled up. Or as I said earlier, we can also flip it around. Now, if I want to angle it up, I can use all sorts of things. I can just use this little plug adapter. I could throw a screwdriver in there. I could throw that nice big clamp in there and get some incredible angle up. And of course I can reverse it and flip it down. And again, it's all about the use of that self-timer, because once we have it set, we hit the self-timer, we let the vibration go down. And now you have actually an incredibly flexible tripod that involves an old used book. It could be an old textbook from a class. It could be an old encyclopedia, whatever it is. And you now have the flexibility of doing a lot of different things with it. What's amazing about the book support system with the 1/4-20 bolt is that it works both horizontally and vertically. So we've been using it to do horizontal shots and then angling it. However, it works quite well doing it vertically, and you can still angle the shot and then just kind of tighten it down, loosen, angle down the other direction. So it's incredibly versatile, working both horizontally and vertically, and for under $1.